Theodore and Master. A short story by Nilsen Bjørneraas. Chapter 1: The Necromancer and his minion. The winds howled across the frozen landscape, singing like wolves in the distance. A nearby cave, its entrance flickering with a dim, warm light, was the current refuge for a man and his follower. Straying from outside perils, both environmental and other monstrous predators, he had lit a fire. It was small enough not to attract attention, but enough to emit a certain amount of warmth. Clad in a dark robe, dark as raven's feathers, that was torn at the edges, the man held his hands gently above the fire's heart. His hair matched fashionably with the robe, with grey streaks contrasting the dark hue. The embers shed enough light to shimmer in the man's eyes, revealing their dark red color, and his skin pale grey. Though he was in good health, given his appearance, these were the features of a necromancer. The man known as Master to his devout follower, an animated skeleton by the name of Theodore, or Theo, a name he had given himself and was incredibly fond of. As a common rule, rarely did a necromancer's minion have any self-control, and far from any opinions of their own, which made Theodore's very special. He wasn't just unique in being a wandering undead. He was also a truly undying version of one. Most constructs given life by a necromancer perish after a while. Whether it was due to their master reclaiming a portion of the power, or the sands of time grinding away said magic, the result was inevitable. For Theodore, this was not what happened. Raised by Master many moons ago, he found himself unable to unalive again. Once his essence thought to be gone, instead of returning to the earth, he kept on living. Neither he nor Master knew what to make of it, though a practical use presented itself, as Theodore was unable to be truly vanquished. Whether a bandit knocked his head off its designated place, or a rock crushed his bones to dust, he would always find a way to regain his skeletal self, painlessly too. Theodore was a marvel. Though, in silent moments, he questioned what to make of his existence, not recalling what his prior life was, nor what the goals of the current one were. All Theodore could do was to follow Master and do as he commanded. As the drape of night slowly fell upon them, Master tidied the campfire. He flicked a subtle spell with his fingers at it, prolonging the lifespan of the embers within its heart. Having done his part, he promptly sought the comfort of a makeshift bedroll, just enough to get the needed rest. Theodore eyed his master, observing the actions leading to a gentle sleep, which he thought never to experience again. He felt an existential dread fill his mind. Instead of letting that fear grip him tightly, he shifted towards being intrigued. To require rest every single day, to not at all, fascinated him. While pondering upon this, the more he realized how much he was missing, how much of his once mortal self was gone. He hoped never to lose the mindful part of it all, which was one of his quirks. And still, he was ever loyal to Master. Whether he was totally in control of his mind could be debated. A rattle outside the cave snatched Theodore right out of his mindful moment. He gazed with intent at the cave's entrance, then back at Master, awaiting command, realizing he was fast asleep. With great desire to grant Master the sleep he needed, Theodore rose his skeletal body from the patch he sat on, and gently approached the exit of the cave. The winds howled outside. Frigid, death-biting cold grazed his bones, though opposing him no harm. He could sense the notion of temperature, another of his quirks. Why, he did not know. Maybe so he could warn Master if there was danger ahead. His thoughts strayed again, almost forgetting why he had wandered out towards the open. He paused, listened, observed. The rattle was nowhere to be seen or heard. Maybe it was within his mind? Then a nearby bush, void of any vegetation, bristled its leaves. Theodore readied himself for battle. He put his feet firmly in position, granting him great stability. He had no weapon to fashion, nor did he know how to fight. He couldn't recall ever being in a fight. What did he recall? Nothing really. Maybe he was a farmer? A king? His mind strayed again, enough to lose focus. In that moment, he was flabbergasted by a being striking out from the frozen bush. Theodore fell flat on his back, knocking what he thought was air out of his lungs, which he didn't have. Clearly, it was a reaction of his mind. Still, it felt incredibly real for Theo. He gasped for air, even if it was for a mere second, enough for him to feel alive. The emotion was quickly swept from him, as the being tippy-toed beside him. Theodore was so afraid he dared not look. For an animated skeleton that couldn't be undone, he was easily frightened. Not a king, he concluded. The monster lurked ever closer, striking true fear within his very core. It grazed the cold bones of his arm, triggering a scream from Theodore. "Keep away from me!" As he snatched his arm away, the creature vaulted away in a swift maneuver, sending it reeling in response. Theodore put monumental effort into not losing himself, or feigning, if that was possible. But a moment passed before he decided to gather his wits and seek out the danger. He was stronger than this. He rose from the ground and peered towards the frozen bush. The creature was likely to retreat to whence it came from. He slowly approached the frozen bush once more, and his eyes met two frightened eyes. The longer he shared looks with it, the more he realized that it was no monster at all. It was an Umbrofin? A tiny furball known for its curious nature, completely harmless. They possess teeny tiny hands, with feet almost hidden due to their fluffy self. They can appear to be floating, though they can be immensely quick, regardless of their physicality. Their eyes, wide and piercingly beautiful, with a tiny mouth, enough to eat snowberries. Given the observation by Theodore, he was struck by an awful sense of guilt. He hated being the bad guy, let alone when it came to animals. They were sacred. No harm should befall such pure beings. Maybe a farmer then. His thoughts strayed back to his prior pondering. The Umbrofin rattled the bush, snatching Theodore out of his wandering. "I'm so sorry, little one. I meant you no harm," he said, gently kneeling down to seem less threatening. The cute furball backed further into the bush, clearly stricken with fear. It made Theodore incredibly sad. He felt like the bad guy, and it was appalling. The hint of a droplet could be seen from his eyes, which was profoundly unusual for a being of his. Once again, life tried to spring from his soul. And yes, Theodore possessed eyes. Even skeletons can have them. It's not that uncommon, neither are they horrendous or decayed. Actually, they are piercing blue, beautiful like the ocean. There is purity in his soul, which is displayed through his eyes. Theodore remembered what made Umbrafen such pests for the common folk, a trait he found incredibly quirky and adorable, which would aid him tremendously in this situation. "Wait here, I will return, little one," he said as he went back into the cave. They might enjoy snowberries, but their true favorite form of sustenance is chocolate. Umbrafen are relentless when in proximity of it, and have no shame when it comes to stealing it. They have no regard for whom it might be stolen from, lest it be theirs as quickly as possible. Having reached their camp in the cave, Theo approached Master's backpack with ease. He knew there to be a snack or two in there. Master did love his quick energy. Even necromancers needed sustenance. Souls are very calorie deficient. He rummaged the bag and quickly found a chocolate delight. He sprang out back to the bush and knelt down once again. He reached out his hand with treat presented, gently signaling that he was no threat. "Go on, it's yours." The Umbrafen slowly tiptoed as it emerged from the bush, sniffing the air. "Oh, apologies," Theodore said as he removed the paper from the chocolate bar. "Here." The little furball approached ever so gently until it reached his hand, then snatched the bar with such haste that Theodore failed to react. He paused and observed as the creature retreated with the bar into its refuge in the bush. It attacked the snack with fury and delight. Not many moments passed before the furball had devoured it. While observing, Theodore realized that it was a cub. "Where is your mother, little one?" he asked. Now far from frightened, it turned to Theo in an instant, signaling its desire for more. "You want more?" The motherly bond between them had already begun to grow, at least for Theo. He felt the urge to aid the lone creature, which displayed its wide, beautiful eyes, that he failed to refuse. "Lucky for you, Master had two," he said, luring a gaze back towards the cave. He could give the last bar away. Master was fine, right? More pressing matters were at hand. The little one needed nourishment more than he. Thus, the answer was simple. Upon giving away the last bar, the Umbrafen gobbled it up, even faster than the first. Theodore was amazed. This fantastic little furball was the most adorable creature he had ever met. While observing it licking what chocolate could be left on the paper, the cub quickly came back for more, having finished its treat. A problem for sure, as Theodore did not possess any more to give. The little one sniffed around, seeking what he could be hiding. "Hey!" Theodore said. "There isn't any more for you." The cub had no regard for the heeds of Theodore. Knowing that he had nothing more to provide, Theo rose and sought the cave once more. He glanced back at the cub, which stood there, all alone. In the howling cold, he had fed it. Now he had to deal with it. Acknowledging this, Theo paused to think. "Alright, come here." He signaled it to follow him, not sure how it would react. He was amazed by how quickly it caught on to his command. It tiptoed past him and into the cave. "You are a clever one, aren't you?" Theodore remarked as he followed it to shelter. Within the confines of safe environments, he sat down next to the campfire, which still emanated warmth and a red glow from its heart. The cub sniffed the environment, its curiosity piqued by Master's belongings and the man himself. Having finished the search, it ogled Theodore with wide, longing eyes before snuggling next to him, slowly finding way to dreamland. Theodore initially found the closeness frightening, but quickly replaced it with care and love for the cub, which had snuggled next to him and fallen asleep. Witnessing how safe it seemed, how protective his presence was for it to fall asleep like that, filled him with warmth unlike any other, not comparable to the campfire's heat. This was entirely different. The life he once had within him, the soul that was bereft of him, continued to grow. Slowly it clawed its way back from the void. A welcoming notion, yet one that bore questions towards his future. What was in store for him? Should his soul return in its entirety? Would he once again be alive? Chapter 2: An Unexpected Companion. The sun filled the valley of frost and snow with warming rays as it perched from behind a mountaintop. Nature awoke with it, as flowers, plants, and trees rose to meet the life-giving light that met them. A process that would ensue every morning, yet every bit as magical when witnessed time and time again. Within the humid cave, warmed by a fire endowed by a necromancer, its inhabitants began to rise. Though the campfire had burned out, it still bristled with embers. Magic still tinged it, ever so carefully. A testament to the necromancer's powers, displayed by how easily Master could bring life to such a mundane task. Not the kind to sleep, Theodore realized he woke from a deep slumber. He felt rested, an almost newfound trait he didn't know he needed. His skeletal face bore a faint smile, which widened as he observed the cub, still fast asleep next to him. His solitude was abruptly snatched away when he glanced over at Master's bedroll, which was empty. Theodore observed the cave and froze dead still when meeting Master's dead stare. He stood firmly in front of him, not a foot away, with his bone-made staff in hand, detailed with intricate, forbidden, and horrific runic symbols. Theodore failed to stop himself from startling the cub as he sprung up to meet his master's gaze. In turn, the necromancer said nothing. He simply watched, first eyeing his minion, then the cub, and back at Theodore, before letting out a slight sigh as he turned to leave the cave. Theodore was shook. He was dead terrified, given that he had not only fallen asleep, which ought to be impossible, but also what Master could do with their newfound companion. Theodore knelt down to calm the cub, which shivered in fear, both from Theodore's sudden movement, but mostly from witnessing the necromancer's aura of death and decay. "I'm so sorry, little one. Don't be afraid. Theodore is here to protect you." The cub met his eyes, Droplets of fright fell down its fur. It bore no love for beings like Master, yet for some reason, Theodore's warmth and calming presence seemed to calm it down enough for it to stay. Don't mind Master. He means us no harm. He might be scary and reek of death, but he also protects us. I will make sure nothing happens to you. Mark my words. While I'm around, there is nothing that will ever harm you. Theodore meant every word he said. If he could swear it by blood, he would. The cub was his responsibility now, and he would guard its life with his, by any means. A notion the cub felt, calming it entirely. Though it was comforting and filled Theodore with lots of love, he hadn't forgotten Master's gaze of doubt before leaving them. He tidied the camp into a leather backpack, which he strapped onto his back, then signaled the cub to follow him. Come on then, we're heading out! The cub, intent on trusting its newfound family, followed Theo like it would its own blood. Upon reaching the cave's exit, Theodore stumbled into Master's back. Apologies, Master, he murmured. No reply was given. Not that Theo had asked a question, but at least a grunt was expected. He feared he might have overstepped his free will by including the cub into the ranks. That, and falling asleep. In a deep, hollow voice scarred by death-born magic, Master finally spoke.
I care not for your condition, nor for your pets, but there are more pressing matters at hand.
Theodore froze where he stood. Not a word left his bony structure. The Necromancer weaved his hand, while another firmly gripped the staff he supported himself with.
Nok von Ru Akbal Eknar.
The words of incantation ignited green magic from his hand, gently flowing outwards. The Necromancer coughed, having finished the spell. What it did, Theodore knew not, but it was not for him to question.
We go. Time is of the essence,
Master said, slowly traversing out into the wilderness, his cape dragging in the snow. Yes, Master, Theodore promptly said, and signaled his friend to join. Come, come. We must not let Master tarry. Having finished the sentence, Theo was filled with joy, having remarked how he was allowed to keep the ally they had gained. Surprising, yet hopeful. Maybe Master had a heart after all. Hours later, in the harsh winter landscape, Theodore was at the heels of his master, who in turn seemed to drag his body across the snow, barely keeping straight. It worried him greatly, witnessing such pain, which he knew the man to be in. A trait far from unfamiliar to necromancers in general, as pain was their domain, along with death and decay. Yet, seeing it in person was devastating. It was his lord after all, his pillar of life and reason to, well, simply exist. Or so Theodore thought, before slipping a glance down at the cub, who breezed through the snow as if it had no worries in the world. A perfectly harmonized creature, he thought. Why did Master cast that spell? He had been doing this every morning for a very long time. Theodore's moment of pondering was abruptly halted. Once again, he crashed into Master's back. "What is it, Undying One?" Theodore asked gently. Master held his hand up, signaling them to halt and stay quiet. Theodore snuck a peek beyond his master's shoulder, trying to observe what could possibly stop a necromancer of his caliber dead in his tracks. It was at that moment Theodore felt true fear. Fear which shook down his bones and into his very core. Between a pair of frozen birch trees, a predator lurked. An adversary far beyond their combined strength. In the common tongue, this beast was called a Gorgona. If there ever was a creature feared by the lords and ladies of any land, this was it. A fierce hunter, capable of tearing the finest armor to shreds. A hulking beast of immense size, rivaling even dragons. The Gorgona was of infernal origin and known to be the protective hound of the very archdevils themselves. When topside, it's usually on a mission by their master, seeking to seal high-valued contracts. Having emerged from the deepest pits of the hells, the Gorgona's hide, tougher than honed steel, burned hotter than lava. Few faced this foe and lived to tell the tale. Yet some see it as an invaluable asset. Its blood, serving as a potent ingredient for the most powerful of elixirs, granting sustained life to the host, made it a path to wealth unending. Only a handful have slain them, and those being the very heroes of the realms. This was a beast of old, a predator so infernal, the mere presence of it would scar one's soul. Theodore felt the urge to bolt in the opposite direction. Before doing so, he met the frightened gaze of the cub and decided there and then he could pick it up and run.
"I need you at my side, underling,"
Master commanded, while readying himself for combat. Theodore had zero reply to give. He struggled to find any action befitting the coming tide. "Yes, Master," was all he could say, and regret it he did. What in the world could he do against such a beast?
"Rock all vaed, Imerga tesh Rudi,"
Master uttered, while weaving his hands in the air, the staff pried in the snow. Theodore knew this one. It meant, "Shroud me in the energies of the weave," knowledge he was particularly fond of. The incantation brought a magical, yellow-like shield around Master, then quickly dissipated, put there, in the weave, ever so powerful. Theo then gazed with fright towards the beast, who yet had noticed them. Its hellish red skin boiled with heat, melting any snow around it for several meters. Standing firm on 4 massive feet with razor-sharp claws, even more so its teeth. No fur, instead it had spikes of thread pointing outwards, making attacks even more difficult at melee range. Though its signature trait, respectfully so, was its horns. 2 of them, massive dreadnoughts, adorned with infernal runes, as acclaimed by its master, capable of piercing even the most formidable devils. Regardless of the horror they faced, Master was not shunned by it. He removed his cloak with intent, revealing a bone-detailed armor. It was fashionable, yet incredibly sturdy, adorned with skulls, jewelry, and runic inscriptions, predominantly black and grey. The armor was ascended with white, bone-like hardpoints. A strong, legendary armor gained from slaying another necromancer many winters ago.
"Stay close, Leave the scrawny one behind,
Master said, his voice confident as his undeniably impressive form. A sight to behold before any battle, which awed Theodore every single time. How he could go from looking like an old, helpless wizard, scary looking one at that, to this frightening, immensely powerful warlock was beyond him. A great wielder of the weave, ready to battle an infernal foe of legend. The Necromancer flicked open a potion, which he had taken from a pocket on the side of Theodore's backpack. It flowed with a dark concoction and was fashioned with a dragon's head on top. He drank it with purpose, and in turn, like a tattoo drawing itself, darkened tentacles sprouted outwards around his eyes, as if he wasn't horrific enough. No mortal would dare face him in combat, not well empowered, but they faced no mortal. Master snatched hold of his staff, almost ripping it from the ground, due to his newfound strength, this time to strike with advantage at the beast, granting him the first blow.
Alakim sakaram dovedun.
Theodore didn't know this one, which excited him. He knelt down to the little cub and spoke.
I need you to go hide, if but for a moment. Master has to deal with this first, and I might have to help him. It could get dangerous.
For reasons unknown, the cub understood its assignment. It gave its best nod and jolted into a nearby set of bushes, peering at them with an intrigued eye, while Master kept chanting his spell in the background. Theodore readied himself for battle. He strapped the backpack tightly to his shoulders and focused his senses. That was it. He was ready. The chanting was nearing its completion, as a sharp icicle formed above Master that pointed straight at the beast. He uttered the last of the incantation,
Sakar, Faristak, Blog,
and sent the icicle between the two birch trees, the wind almost dragging them along, then striking the beast with immense power and cold. The Gorgana was knocked to the side, losing its foothold. Theodore was shocked. Did they win? As both Master and Theodore observed, the beast lay dormant for a moment, its eyes closed. They shared looks, almost revealing a faint smile from Master, or a grin of confidence. Then, as if a bull letting out a heavy gust of air from its nostrils, the beast awoke, revealing its burning red and black eyes. It flooded with fury as it stumbled back on its feet, its gaze straight at them. Theodore stopped breathing, or so he thought, if he could.
Ready yourself,
Master commanded, planting his feet firmly in a defensive position. The beast mirrored him, preparing to charge at them with a hellish blaze. Though Theodore had thrown himself into danger before, knowing he couldn't truly die, this time he found himself unable to move. Hearing the cub make a subtle, yet fearful cry in the bushes, quickly snapped him out of the paralysis. The beast let out one last snort before charging like 1,000 bulls, hell-bent on murdering anything in their path. Master met its gaze and promptly lost grip of his concentration. Theodore then moved in front of Master with clear confidence, an act that received a surprising look from Master. Even he did not expect such valiancy, which made him regain his posture and focus.
I will draw its charge, then you strike from advantage,
Theodore yelled. Master responded with a firm nod. Theo dashed to the side and yelled like the mad skeleton boy he was.
Come here, boy! As many bones as you want!
He realized the plan was a desperate last resort, but the best he could come up with. To his surprise, it worked like a charm. The beast flooded in his direction, and not at Master.
Oh, fuck!
He murmured. The beast reached him in seconds and struck with its deadly horns at Theodore, sending his skeletal parts flying in several directions. Though he was unable to assist further, his head, while high above, observed as Master readied yet another spell from behind. The beast turned to face him, but before it could charge, void-like portals opened beneath its feet. Master focused his entire being and exerted monumental effort to summon tentacles from beyond, which grabbed hold of the beast's hooves. It was immobile, hopefully long enough to strike again.
Good work, Master!
Theodore cried out from afar as his head flew into a snow patch. He puffed to reveal his surroundings, though being a skeleton he couldn't actually puff, but somehow he did, thus granting him a view of the battle and possibly his parts. Master began flinging spells of all manner and sorts at the beast, while it stood there immobilized. Meanwhile, Theodore set himself to the task of rebuilding himself. He spotted one of his feet traversing the frozen landscape. He whistled to it, like a dear friend, lost in the fog.
Hey, over here!
The foot immediately turned towards him, and so did the other parts of his body. Not moments later, Theodore had regained much of his body, though upon further inspection, he realized he had assembled certain parts in the wrong places. A foot on his hand, a hand on his foot, and so on. He quickly swapped around and evidently finished the construction. He saw that he was missing some of his hands and glanced around to find it. In a nearby tree, a skeleton hand wiggled around, caught in the branches. Theo smacked the base of the trunk, and the hand landed perfectly on its designated spot. He was rather strong, a trait he didn't think of all that often. He tightened the hand, making sure it fit correctly on him. A loud bang shook the very foundation of the ground he stood upon. Theodore looked towards the battleground, fearful of Master's good health. He saw the beast readying itself for another attack, having knocked Master into a nearby rock, which was now cracked from the impact. The shield he had enchanted unto himself earlier was failing. Dark blood ran down his nose, and his magic exhausted. Theodore had to aid him, and quickly, else he would perish. The beast, inches apart from the Necromancer, snorted hot air at him. It reveled in his pain and agony, like a devil would its victims. Theodore needed to be creative and resort to drastic measures. Somehow, the backpack was unharmed by the prior attack, as he found himself standing right next to it. He snatched hold of it and opened its inventory. He brought forth a set of elixirs and potions, all filled with potent magic, all of them incredibly hard to come by, and some worth more gold than most would earn in a lifetime. Regardless of this, he had a plan. He smashed all of them onto himself, bathing his skeletal self in their potency. Whether it would work or not, he knew not, but he had to try. Their power, their magic, struck him like 1,000 ocean waves. He struggled to compose himself. It felt like he would melt, yet he didn't. His eyes began to glow in a dark purple hue. He was immensely powerful, like he could strike down any foe with the flick of his finger. Theodore roared in fury, sating himself in a profound power, and in turn the beast's focus shifted towards him. Master was shook by the sight, as he and the Gorgana felt the very fabric of the weave focus its energies into a single point of existence. Theodore.
Come on then, you hellborn monster. Show me what you got.
Theodore declared confidently. The beast howled with such fury that even Master was stricken with fear. But not Theo. He was beyond fear, beyond any infliction the beast could possibly affect him with. It charged one last time, Now at Theodore, either he or the beast would perish for good in this clash of power. Theodore raised his hands to the side, welcoming the beast. It rushed ever closer, the ground shaking as its hooves made thunderous impact with the ground. Then, Theodore, in a dramatic fashion, took one of his hands and pointed towards the beast. His fingers extended and shaped like an archer, miming the drawing of an invisible bow, a bold yet mocking gesture.
Kaboom!
He uttered, and in response, a power incredibly potent and beautiful flung out from his finger, sending all the magic he had stored within himself flying towards the beast. Upon striking the Gorgona, a violent explosion of purple magic, hellfire, and darkened blood shook the foundation of the valley they were situated in. Theodore fell to his knees. Even his unique body had taken a toll from this, but they had won. The battle was over. He regained his senses and moved with intent towards Master.
Are you right, Master?
He asked, while holding out his arm. The Necromancer took hold of it, straining his body as he rose. A moment of confusion took place before he managed to break words.
I need rest.
Theodore hummed, mostly to himself, as he witnessed Master preserve what blood he could from the defeated beast. Theo then noticed the bush where the cub had hidden earlier. He moved to it, carefully.
Are you in there, little one?
The cub carefully peeked from behind a set of frozen branches.
I hope it wasn't too loud. Are you right?
Theodore displayed his most friendly of faces, which honestly was all of the time. The cub snuggled up next to him, displaying its confidence in Theodore. Having defeated the Gorgona was one thing, but the love and comfort he felt from the cub was infinitely more rewarding.